Hello, this is Praveena, working as English CRT at Nandipadu KGBV Duttalur Mandal, Nellore district. Today, in this video, I am going to start the very first lesson of your English textbook. If you look at the textbook, we can notice that there are three readings given. Reading A is The Snake and the Mirror, B is The Duck and the Kangaroo poem, C is Little Bobby. Let us understand the meaning of humor. Humor means a type of comedy or any funny situations we come through in our lives. Humor means which make us laugh. Here we can see the picture of a lion looking into its own image. They have given also some questions here. First question is, what did the lion do on looking into its own reflection? A. Enjoyed its beauty. B. Felt threatened. C. Felt angry. Here what is the position of the lion? How is it looking? You can give your options here. And the second one is, have you heard or read a story of a pet or an animal looking into a mirror? If yes, how did the animal feel? Now, before going into the lesson, we'll know about the author. Here, our author is Mr. Vaikom Muhammad Bashir. Vaikom Muhammad Bashir, 21st January 1908 to 5th July 1994, was a Malayalam fiction writer from the state of Kerala in India. Fiction means stories are about two types. First one is real stories and fiction writers. The second one is fiction writers. That means unreal stories. He is from Kerala state in India. He was a humanist, freedom fighter, novelist, and a short story writer. He is noted for his down-to-earth style of writing that made him equally popular among literary critics as well as the common man. Here, down-to-earth style means even a common man who can read and write can easily understand his writings. That means the way of his writing is very simple. He is regarded as one of the most successful and outstanding writers from India. Translations of his works into other languages have won him worldwide acclaim. Now, our lesson, The Snake and the Mirror, is originally an Malayalam fiction story, which was laterly translated by V. Abdullah. The story, The Snake and the Mirror, was translated into English. His notable works include Balyakala Sakshi, Shabdangal, Mithulukal, and Anarga Nimisham. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 1982. He is fondly remembered as the Bepur Sultan. Now, let us enter into the lesson, The Snake and the Mirror. Has a snake ever coiled itself around any part of your body? A full-blooded cobra. All of us fell silent. The question came from the homeopath. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with the tale. Here, This story has been told by a homeopath doctor to his friends. This is a story in a story. It was a hot summer night about 10 o'clock. I, I had my meal at the restaurant and returned to my room. I heard a noise from above as I opened the door. The sound was a familiar one. One could say that rats and I shared the room. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp. In this first paragraph, the homeopath doctor conveys his story like this. It was a hot summer night. He had his meal at a restaurant and he returned home at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock means actually it will be dark. So as soon as he opened the door, there came a familiar sound. Familiar means which was very regular to him, which was common to him. One could say that rats and I shared the room. See how funnily he expresses his views. Here, the rats and I shared the room. That means he and rats shared that room, it seems. I took out my matchbox of and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. What he did? He went into the room and he opened the door. He heard the voice as he usually heard before and all. After that, he went near the table and lighted the kerosene lamp. The house was not electrified. It was a small rented room. I had just set up medical practice and my earnings were very meager. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase along with some shirts and dhotis. I also possessed one solitary black coat which I was then wearing. Here, as the house was not electrified, he lit the kerosene lamp. Here, the doctor says that he just started up his practice and his earnings were meager. Meager means very less amount. I had about 60 rupees. How much did he have? Only 60 rupees he had in his suitcase and along with that some shirts and dhotis. I also possessed one solitary black coat which I was then wearing and he also had a solitary means a single black coat which he was wearing then. And going to the next paragraph, I took off my black coat, white shirt and not so white vest and hung them up. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. It had a tiled roof with long supporting gables that rested on the beam over the wall. There was no ceiling. There was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for a little air, but the wind god seemed to have taken time off. Here, when we observe this paragraph, he says that he took off his black coat. That means he removed his black coat and he also removed his white shirt and he also removed his vest. Here, vest means it's a garment worn by gents inside the shirt. I opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. it was a outhouse, because the doctor has started his medical practice recently. He didn't had much money. He First of all, he had said that his earnings were meager, so he took a outhouse for rent. In that house was supported by a gable. Gables means reapers, which are made of wood. It was a tiled tiled room. There, the regular traffic of rats was common here. So funnily, he expresses there was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. Here, regular traffic means actually we see the traffic in cities or small towns. Here, on the beams, he says that the regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. That means the rats are running this side and that side on the beam. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. I made my bed means here he adjusted his bed and pulled it close to the wall. I lay down, but I could not sleep. He laid on the bed, but he couldn't sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda for a little air, but the wind god seemed to have taken off. So, as he was not able to sleep on his bed, what did he do? He went out to the veranda for a little air, but there was no air outside. Coming to the next paragraph, I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. I opened the box beneath the table and took out a book, the Materia Medica. I opened it, and the table on which stood the lamp and a large mirror. A small comb lay beside the mirror. Here he says that when he went into the back, he sat on the chair and he opened the drawer and took out the book, the Materia Medica, to read. On the table, there was a big mirror and a lamp and a small comb. What do we do when we see the mirror? Actually, we feel like seeing again and again. One feels tempted to look into a mirror when it is near. I took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty and I believed in making myself look handsome. So, sitting before the mirror, he was tempted to look into the mirror and he started looking at the mirror. In those days, he used to admire of his beauty and he believed in making himself look handsome. I was unmarried and was a doctor. I felt I had to make my presence felt. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting so that it looked straight and neat. Again, I heard that sound from above. The doctor was an unmarried person. He felt to make his presence very cool and handsome. So he picked up the comb and ran through his hair and adjusted his parting. Parting means the straight line which we comb neatly. While he was combing, again he heard the voice which was familiar to him. He thought that it was the sound of rats. I took a close look at my face in the mirror. I made an important decision. I would shave daily and grow a thin mustache to look more handsome. I was, after all, a doctor, a bachelor, and a doctor. Looking into the mirror, he made an important decision because he was a bachelor. Moreover, he was a doctor. What was the decision means? Here, he want to shave daily and grow a thin mustache. I looked into the mirror and smiled. It was an attractive smile. I made another earth-shaking decision. I would always keep that attractive smile on my face to look more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor too on top of it. He looked into the mirror and smiled once. He thought, after seeing that smile, he thought that his smile was very attractive, and another earth shaking decision was taken by him that he should maintain that smile always on his face to look more handsome because he was a bachelor and moreover he was a doctor too. Again, that noise from above. Once again, he heard that same familiar noise. I got up, lit a beady, and paced up and down the room. Then another lovely thought struck me. I would marry, I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. Here, he, he lit a beady. He got up and lit up a beady and paced up and down means he roamed this side and that side in the room itself. The other lovely thought struck, and again another thought struck in doctor's mind. What was that means? He wanted to get married. That too, he wanted to marry a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. She had to be fat for a valid reason. If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. What type of woman he wants to marry means he wanted a woman who is fat. There is a valid reason to it. Actually, men prefer the woman who is slim and beautiful, but here a doctor wants a fat woman to marry because when he had done any silly mistake, his wife shouldn't run after him to give him cuts. And that is the reason. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. There were no more sounds from above. Suddenly, there came a dull thud, as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely, nothing to worry about. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. Now, with such type of thoughts, he resumed to sit in the chair which was in front of the table. There were no more sounds above. Suddenly, there was a dull thud. Suddenly, there came a sound which was like a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely, he thought that it must be some rats fallen from above. Although he thought that he wanted to look back. What was that? To know what was that. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. The snake landing on me and my turning was simultaneous. Here he thought that rats or something made that sound. But actually, what was happening? A snake from above had fallen down and slowly slithered onto the chair and landed over on his shoulder. The turning of the doctor and the snake crawling onto his shoulder was on time. In the same time, these two actions were done. I didn't jump, I didn't tremble, I didn't cry out. There was no time to do any such a thing. The snake slithered along my shoulder and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. Now, what happened? He didn't even shake. He didn't even jump. He didn't even tremble. Tremble means here shiver. Or he didn't even cry. He just sat like a stone. What did the By this time, what did the snake do? The snake slithered onto his shoulder and coiled means to wriggle or to twill or to twist around my left arm above the elbow. The snake slithered slowly onto the shoulder and coiled his left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from the face. And the hood means the head of the snake which was spread. It was only 4 or 5 inches far from the doctor's face. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. I was turned to stone, but my mind was very active. The, the door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. In the light of lamp, I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. Here, he was unable to do anything as the snake was 3 or 4 inches from his face. So he sat down like a stone with flesh. I felt then the great presence of the creator of this world and this universe. God was there. Suppose I said something and he did not like it. I tried in my imaginations to write in bright letters outside my little heart the words, "Oh God." Then only the doctor remembered God. He thought if he had thought anything opposite on God, he would he would uh, order the snake to bite me. He thought like that and he said nothing but, "Oh God." There was some pain in my left arm. It was as if a thick leaden rod, no, a rod made of molten fire was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. The arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. What could I do? Then the snake coiled the left arm of the doctor and it was crushing very tightly. The crushing was like as if a rod made of molten fire was crushing his arm. He couldn't do anything. All his strength was draining. Coming to the next paragraph, at my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. Death lurked 4 inches away. Suppose it struck What was the medicine I had to take? There was no medicines in the room. I was but a poor, foolish, and stupid doctor. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself. Now he tells that if he moves this a bit, if he moves a bit, the snake would strike him. Now death lurked for 3 or 4 inches to him, and if the snake struck him, he thought of medicines he had. There was no medicine with him because he was a poor doctor who had started his practice recently, and he blamed himself that he was a foolish and stupid doctor. Thinking of all these, he forgot everything and smiled feebly at his situation. Here, he smiled feebly because he doesn't know what is going to happen. Either the snake would strike him or leave him and go. He was in that situation, caught up in that situation. It seemed as if God appreciated that the snake turned its head. It looked into the mirror and saw its reflection. I do not claim that it was the first snake that had ever looked into a mirror, but it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. Was it admiring its own beauty? Was it trying to make any important decision about growing a mustache or using eyeshadow and mascara or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead? Here, in this paragraph, it seemed as if God appreciated that because he thought that he depended upon God. He left everything to God. Maybe God has appreciated that, and the snake turned its head. Where he was sitting on the chair before the mirror. As the snake turned its head, what did it see? It has seen the mirror and its reflection in the mirror. As soon as it saw, he left doctor and slowly crawled onto the table. It was looking it into the mirror like that only. Then the doctor started thinking about what it was doing. Was it? He thought that for a few minutes before he was thinking about himself to grow mustache and shave daily and keep the smile uh, all the time. He made some important decisions which were earth quakening. But here he thinks of the snake. Maybe the snake is thinking to grow mustache or apply mascara or wearing a vermilion spot. Vermilion spot means wearing kumkum on its forehead. I did not know anything for certain. What sex was the snake? Was it male or female? I will never know. For the snake unwound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. From there, it crept onto the table and moved towards the mirror. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. After looking into the mirror, the snake wanted to see its reflection more nearly. Here, close quarters means in uh, in in very closer distance. I was no mere image cut in granite. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. Still holding my breath, I got up from the chair. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. From there, I leapt into the yard and ran for all I was worth. Now, as soon as the snake slithered onto the table, what did the doctor do? He suddenly and slowly got up from the chair and quietly came into the veranda, and from there in one run he had reached his friend's house. Here, each of us heaved a sigh of relief. All of us lit beady. Somebody asked, Doctor, is your wife very fat? Now, all the listeners of his story were heaved a sign of relief. Now, somebody in the group asked whether the doctor had married a fat wife. Now, the doctor says that no, the doctor said God willed otherwise. My life companion is a thin, needy person with the gift of a spinster. Now, the doctor answers to that question that I had thought one thing and God had thought otherwise, the opposite wise. Here, the doctor's wife is not fat here. She is very thin and greedy person with the gift of a sprinter. Here, sprinter means a very fast runner. Someone else asked, Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you? Another person from the group asked the doctor whether the snake ran after him when he was running. The doctor replied, I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. Immediately I smeared oil all over myself and took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes. The next morning, about 8:30, I took my friends and one or two others to my room to move my things from there. The doctor replied that at a take he ran without looking back. He ran to his friend's house. As soon as he entered into his friend's house, he immediately smeared. Smeared means he applied oil all over his body and took bath and changed himself into fresh clothes. And the next morning at 8:30, he took his friends and two more men with him and to move his things from there. But we found we had little to carry. Some thief had removed most of my things. The room had been cleaned out, but not really. The thief had left behind one thing as a final insult. So he took his friends along with him and two more members to remove all the things from that room. As soon as he entered the house, he saw that some thief had pinched everything from his room except one thing as a final insult. That means only one thing the thief had left for him. What was that? I asked. Here our author asked, what was that? The doctor said, my waist, the dirty one. The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. The doctor said that it was the vest of mine which was dirty. He left only the vest here, he said, because it was very dirty. He even told that the fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. Cleanliness means very neat. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. He also said that he had to be taken that also, and if he washes it would be clean. Did you see the snake the next day, doctor? And also he asked whether he had seen the snake the next day when he went to remove everything from his room. The doctor laughed. I've never seen it since it was a snake which was taken with its own beauty. He said that he said smilingly, he said that he had never seen that since now. This is the story, children. I hope you have all enjoyed. Thank you for giving this opportunity.